Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy you're all here to join me today for this fun painting tutorial, another fantasy for you. This is a 9x12 double primed and stretched canvas. Now you can use anything larger, smaller, whatever size canvas that you like. And I've got the following colors: white, cool yellow, neon yellow warm, neon pink, phthalo cyan blue, aqua green turquoise, and a light olive green. So I'm going to start this painting by working on the sky first, and then we're going to lead up to this big wave here that's full of fantasy and whatever kind of comes to mind as I paint this. So I'm painting intuitively on the spot. I don't have anything to go by right now, just I like to trust my imagination and my thoughts and paint whatever comes to mind right now. So I always love to have the camera rolling and talk my process through and make it a tutorial for you guys at the same time. I'm going to be using, let's see here. Got my number 30 filbert brush. I'm just going to wet the canvas down a little bit, adding a little bit of water to the canvas prior to adding the paint. Really helps to blend your paint out, and it takes your paint further, so you're not frustrated with it drying out too quick. You're not constantly going back for more paint, wondering why it's not spreading. There are mediums out there to extend your acrylics, but water works just fine, and it's free. So just a little bit of water. And again, I'm using a number 30 filbert, but you can use any brush you have or you want to use just for this background. So the first color I'm going to take is my pink. I'm using Holbein Luminous Neon heavy bodied acrylics, but you can use any bright pink that you want. There's other brands. There's Arteza, Liquitex Basics, and a few other ones. So you don't have to have these exact ones I'm using today. And I'm just going to start spreading across the top of the canvas. So a little bit of pink first, working it out of my brush as I go down. The next color, a little bit of that neon yellow warm. I'm going to overlap where I left off. So we get a nice gradation from pink to that yellow, and then to the cool yellow. Again, I'm going to overlap where I left off, and I'll take a little bit of white and I'll just add a little bit right there. And I've got a clean brush here now. The next thing I'm going to do is go into my phthalo blue or phthalo blue cyan. You don't need the cyan phthalo, you can just use regular phthalo. It's very similar. And what I'm going to do is go down like this on a slant, just pull back up. And then what I'm going to do is curve, and I like having these see-through spaces in between. You can even go from the bottom up. Use a little bit more of the phthalo blue right in here. You can make it a little wiggly like this. This is where it's going to be the darkest, is right next to where it's going to be the brightest. So we'll have the bright foamy bits on top. And then a little bit down here at the bottom. I'm going to let this completely dry, and then we're going to filter over with our turquoise. So we're going to apply the turquoise paint over the entire wave, but we have to wait for it to dry. And that way it's going to give us a beautiful glowing effect. But what I want to do right now is add a few clouds in the sky, and I'm going to be using my number 2 filbert brush. I'm going to make a light blue violet color, and I'll show you. I've got it in a tube already, my light ultramarine blue or light blue violet, depending on what brand you get. I've got one already that I bought, but I want to show you how you can make it with these colors if you already have them on your palette. So I'm going to take a bit of white, a little bit of my neon pink, and just a tiny bit of that blue. Now let's see. Doesn't look like blue violet yet. It looks like more of a lilac color. Let's take a little bit more of the phthalo blue. Now it's a little bit too blue. Let's add a little bit of white, a little bit more pink. And I think we're pretty close here. Lighten up with some more white. Very, very close. So there you go. You can take blue and pink, and depending on what shade of blue you're using, it'll just kind of change slightly. But you'll get something really similar. I'm going to take a little bit more white because I know it's going to dry a bit darker. And I want these clouds to look soft and dreamy. So I think I'm just going to start up here. Now I don't have a lot of water in my brush at all, just paint. I'm just going to gently push and wiggle. Okay, then I'm going to come in from here. And if my orange and yellow is wet underneath, that's going to mix in a little bit. Look what I do here on the end, just because I'm wanting this to have a little bit more of a whimsical look. I'm going to play up on the ends and make them kind of look curvy, like a vine would look. I'm going to take a little bit more white. And not over blending, just kind of adding that there and then leaving it. And then a little bit more white. So we get different tones in our clouds. See? Beautiful light effects you'll get. And I'll add a few little scattered ones up here. Twisting and wiggling. I'm really not being careful. People overthink and overwork their clouds, and that's where you get the frustration. Spending too much time staring at your clouds, thinking they're wrong, when really all you need to do is just put that paint on, scribble it around the canvas a little bit, and then just leave it. Come back to it later if you're not sure. And then I always like to come in and add a little bit of light or dark, depending on if it needs it. I think they're dark enough, so just adding a little dab of white. Not covering up the entire cloud though. Now what I can do is get my brush wet, rinse out that paint, clean brush, and just sweep. If you really want to have some sweeping, dreamy looking clouds, take a little bit of water, maybe a little bit of white, and sweep out from the bottom. Okay, a little bit like that. All right, so I think I'm gonna leave that for now. I was hoping this would be totally dry. Most of it is, but you can see wherever there's some little shiny bits, where it's a little bit thicker is where it's still wet. So I'm going to speed the process up with my hair dryer, and then we'll come back in, like I mentioned earlier, with our turquoise, with our bright aqua green turquoise. Okay, so this should be dry enough now. I'm going to go back in with my number 30 filbert. Just going to load both sides evenly, just a quarter of the way up the paintbrush. And I think I'm just going to start from down here. I can see I need just a little bit of water on my brush. So just to show you how much water I'm adding, there's no drips. If you have anything dripping, that means you've got way too much water on your brush. Another green that would be really nice is Phthalo Green. And I'm going to go back over to my number 2 filbert brush. I'm going to pick up a little bit of white. I've got a tiny bit of water on my brush. And you know the little foamy bits that you get on the water, we're just gonna scumble along here, wiggle, wiggle, and then go up, and then bring it flat down here. Oops. So we'll have some dark ones, and then we'll have some lighter ones like this. And if you really want to create more of a glow, then you'll push and add a little bit more. It's only if you really need it. If your wave isn't bright enough. Just loading the very tip of my brush like this. Now you can do this with a liner brush too. I find it can be a little bit challenging with a liner brush, especially for my beginner students. So just check back and see if it starts to fade too much and you want to have a little bit more. Then go ahead and just slide in there and get a little bit more on your brush, just on the very tip. And just create all these little wiggles and squiggles. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is go back into my phthalo, and I'm going to add a little bit more depth here. So we're going to start to make our wave look 3D. I'm coming down lower than the top because we need to have that foam on the top too. Taking a little bit of water, and again, just to show you how much water I've got, it's not dripping. And you can add a few of those little squiggles in there too. Sometimes you get a little bit of seaweed that's getting tossed up and rolled in with the waves. You just want to make sure you're paying attention to the shape, the direction that your wave is going. And a little bit down here. So when the wave gets picked up, it's thin here and you're seeing the light filter through. But then down below, we've still got the deep water and there's shadow there. So we need to create that shadow by adding the same dark colors. So more of the turquoise and the blue down at the bottom. And this is the easiest way to paint a wave. Some more turquoise with the blue, mix it up. And we'll start coming in here as it starts picking up. Rinse my brush out. And I'm just going to slide and scumble. Slide, scumble, and wiggle. A little bit extra shadow in here. I'm forgetting about that little spot right there. Okay, I think this wave is looking pretty nice so far. think we're ready to start coming in with the top. For the top of the wave, I'm going to be using my number 16 filbert brush. You can use any size filbert brush you want, fan brush, or stipple brush. It's really how you're using the brush is what's going to give you that look of the foam and the brightest spots on the top of the wave. So I'm going to be making that light ultramarine blue color again, or light blue violet. A little bit of pink, blue, and white. Okay, there we go, mixed up. And I'm going to start tapping partially above the wave and partially over the darkest parts. If you want, you can even pull over like that. It all depends on what kind of wave you want to create. Okay, then I'm going to take a little bit of white, a little bit more pink, a little bit of yellow in there. I don't want to over tap because then I'm going to just make brown. I'm just going to tap a little bit in here. See the color reflecting on this wave. The colors are going to be coming from the sunset above. Okay, I'm going to rinse my brush out. I'm going to add a little bit of this color in the water with my number 2 filbert. So I'm just going to tie all these colors in together. That same technique. And then I'm going to go under the water again, under the top of the wave, add a bit more shadow. And I'm going to make the beginning stages of some castles. So I'm just going to pull out a little flat base here. And then I'm going to pull it up. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Gonna flatten that out again. And just pull different, turning my brush to the side like this, or you can pull up like this if you want. Different heights for our castle. And then I'll take a little bit of white. And I'm going to do a little arch like that. Just for the tops. Some smaller ones. And please use brushes that you feel comfortable with. You know, you might want to use a little round brush, but you can use a little filbert. Okay, and then take a little bit of white. I just think this is so whimsical and fun. And it doesn't have to be, people think that this is for a child's room. It can be for any age. You're never too old for some fun and fairy tale and some whimsy. And you can make it a little bit darker if you want it to be a little bit more moody and have a bit of a mysterious, almost kind of gloomy feel to it that can add a lot of mood just by changing the color tone. Just rinsing my brush out. And I'm going to go into my phthalo again, my pink, and this time I'm going to add a little bit of that warm yellow. And a little bit of that light violet in there that we made. I'm going to go underneath those little turrets. And in between. And I'll just add a little bit of shadow in here. And then I'm going to tap, tap, tap. Little taps, and we'll add a little bit of our light olive green. Just for some grass and some trees and bushes that may be there. So we'll just right away go into that pretty shade of green. You can use any green that you want. There's no rules. I just really like using these olive earthy greens. I think it ties all the other colors together. I'm going to take a little bit of, let's take a little bit of white and the neon yellow. And we'll add some highlights, a little bit more. Remember, it's far away, so you don't have to have a lot of detail. You know what's funny about this is this little bit of a cloud that I have there lines up perfectly here, and it looks like a flag, doesn't it? I'm just going to go into that darkish color that we have there and go with that. And take a little bit more of my white. A little bit of yellow, orange, and white. Add a few little dabs for windows. And then what I'd like to do right about here is have a little magical portal or opening, and then kind of have, feel like these are almost like stairs blending in, becoming one with a wave. So I'm going to take white, clean brush, orange, and yellow, and I think I'll add it right about here. Sort of a little oval shape. And then I'm just going to add that light and have it start to become one with a wave. So I'll do that again. I'll add a little bit more. Okay, then I'm going to take blue, pink, that yellow, and I think we'll have a few little plants, bushes around here. I always like to add some foliage and vines and flowers and stuff on around my little garden archways or little portals. I think these are just so fun to paint. They add a lot to a painting. I'm going to go in and take my light olive green, dab, dab, dab. Have a little bit kind of dangling down there too. And then pull in a little bit of the neon yellow. I'm going to have this sort of blending in as well. And take a little bit more yellow, both yellows. Tap that around. Got a bit more warmth in there. Make it look a little bit more warm and inviting. Mix those colors up again, the same colors. And I'm going to add some here on the top. And we'll start adding little lights that come down. Let's add a little bit of flowers here. Still using the same brush. Some pink flowers. And a little bit of white in with that, just to soften. Take a little bit more white, mix up what's left on my brush, tap and dab over where I left off, and then just kind of gently sweep up like that. I'm going to switch over to a liner brush now. I've got a size 0 liner brush, and I'm going to go and take these darker colors again and add a few little dabs for some windows. These little easy, simple details make a big difference. And I'll add just a little bit more shadow in here. So again, it's the yellow warm, blue, and pink. And I'm going to add some glowing lights here. I think I'll take some yellow and white. I'm going to use both yellows. I'm going to start dabbing. So it looks like little glowing beads, kind of just trailing down. So I'll take this yellow with a little bit of white, and maybe add a little bit over here. Dab, dab, dab. Really helps to steady your hand and make these better by placing your pinky on the painting. Of course, you want to make sure that it's dry. And then they'll get smaller and smaller. Let's see, it's nice to tint your white with these neon paints because then you get the most beautiful pastel tones. I'll add a little bit in here. And we can make some pink ones too. Even with a little bit of yellow in there. Yellow, pink, white, all those colors that we have up top, right? They'll work so nicely together. And a few little dabs of this pink here and there. I'm just going to rinse my brush out, and I'm going to go back into my neon yellow cool. And I'm going to add a few extra highlights on some areas here. And then I'm going to add some little twinkling, sparkly looking stars. Redab the very center with a little bit of white. And just take whatever tinted white color you want, whatever pastel color you want, and add a few more. Then a little bit of white in the center. Just gonna lightly brush over the dark windows there because it's a little bit too dark for something that's far away. I'm gonna go back in, a little bit of water. And add some more of those little squiggly foamy bits. And I thought it would be really fun because it is a fun and whimsical painting. Why not add a little lamppost right here? You guys know how much I love my lampposts in my paintings. They just have so much charm and character, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Cleaning my brush off, I'm gonna take those colors again just to make something kind of dark. Twist and roll my brush. You might need a little bit of water on your brush to help work the paint out. I'm gonna go across the top, add a little triangle, come down, narrower on either side. A little line there, and then we're going to do the post. And when that happens, definitely need a little bit of water. So just adding a little bit of water, there we go. And then we'll gradually make it a little bit wider for the base. And that's just like a little bit of shadow right there. Okay, so narrower here, a little line, and then a triangle on the top. Add a little bit more inside my lamp here just so I have some more room for adding the lines on my lampshade. I'm going to add some flowers here. Little hanging baskets. I've been starting to add these to my lamp posts. I think they're so pretty. So a little bit of light olive green and a little bit of neon yellow for highlights. And then a little bit of a bubblegum pink. You can just use the neon pink and just add a few little dabs like this. Clean brush. I'm going to go back to my blue. Go over top again. And add a little dark colored basket. And then we'll add a line down there. And see how it comes in. Start from the outer edges and then bring it in like that. Take just a little bit of my blue and tap and dab for a few more shadows. And then a little bit of, got my filbert brush again. This one is the number 16. A little bit of cool neon yellow and white. And I'll just add it right there where we still had that bare canvas. I'm going to take a little bit of yellow, neon yellow cool, a little bit of white and light olive green. And just pull that out a little bit. I'm just going to have a few more stars coming down here. Some hanging a little bit lower. And I'll pick up a little bit more of this yellow mixture. Just a little bit more the light olive green now. We've got a bit of a shadow here on this side. We've got this underwater land. Now this star here is pretty white. I want to add a bit of color to it. Take a little bit of that pink. I'm just going to go around. See how you can go over and glaze. And then a little bit of white and yellow in the center. That'd be pretty to incorporate a few little water lilies here. I'm going to do that. So I think I'm going to take a little bit of phthalo blue and light olive green. I'm just going to add some little flat ovals right there, and then maybe some kind of coming up. A little bit of little neon yellow, white. A little bit more. I want everything to just kind of get swept in and look really dreamy in this wave. Use a little bit more of my phthalo blue. Okay, and then some white and pink. Just add a little blobby center like that first. Rinse my brush out, as you can probably hear. And then take some white, yellow, the yellows. You can add a little bit of pink if you want. And I'm just gonna pull little petals like this, nothing too detailed. We don't need a lot of detail to know that these are little water lilies. And then just some little ones. Tap and dab and pull out like that. Take a little bit more neon yellow and white and give them a little bit more of a glow in the center. I'm going to add just a little bit more. Coming up into this wave. Just a little bit of phthalo blue, light olive green. Rinse your brush out before you begin adding your flowers. Add a little dab, both yellows and the white. Dab, push and dab. We'll take a little bit of white and pink. Without washing my brush off, I've got a little bit of all those colors in there. And just simply add a few little petals like that. Don't get lost in trying to make everything look like a full-on detailed flower. You really don't have to do that. Oh, this is fun. I really like this. I love just, you know, not worrying about if I'm going to like it after. That's the best way to paint, is just to paint whatever you feel like painting without thinking about the outcome. It's the most fun. Okay, I'm going to call this painting all done. Thanks so much for joining me today. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more. Check out the links below this video. You can become one of my patrons. I really appreciate all of the supporters, both here and on Patreon. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all soon in my next video. Bye, everybody.